Welcome to On the Grind Sportscast. I'm your host, Javi. This is my co-host, Andrew. And thank you guys for joining us today. This is our introductory episode where we're going to go through some of our motivation, some of the backstory on what helped us to develop the idea of creating this podcast, what kind of got us to this point.
What inspired us and what we hope to accomplish with this new adventure that we're going on.
Definitely. So this is something that we've kind of been dreaming of and having in the works for about a year or so. So we'll kind of go through our backgrounds and give you a little bit of a backstory on who we are, introduce ourselves to the public, and then we'll go from there, kind of get into what we're going to probably do with this thing and how we continue to shine a spotlight on all local sports, kind of give some good positive feedback to the community and kind of highlight the teams and athletes in this area.
Teams in the area, and specifically the area. What we want to do is focus on the Orange Belt, although we're not limited to that. But the teams here, Porterville, Strathmore, Lindsay, Exeter,
even.
But there's some talent here that deserves to be shown some praise.
Yeah, it definitely gets overlooked a lot of the time. The talent here in Porterville gets overlooked. So we'll kind of give a little backstory on each one of us and talk about who we are and where we grew up and how we got to love this area and all of those things. So if you'd like to start, Andrew, with who you are.
So my name is Andrew Garcia. I was born and raised in Strathmore. Went to school there. So I'm a Spartan. My kids all went to school here in Porterville. So I'm real ingrained in the community. I know, the love that each school, carries from all their past alumni, myself included. So, I've watched sports my whole life and been a coach and helped out with my kids when they played, from K all the way up to out of high school. So that's where my motivation comes from.
So Strathmore Spartan alumni.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm a Monache alumni, so I have deep-rooted love for Porterville as a town. Yeah. Our kids both went to Porterville High School. Yeah. Admittedly, it was a little tough for me to wear the P and the orange and green because I have such strong Monache roots, but we had to do that for our kids. When they went to high school there, we had to transition to green and orange and away from the Strathmore and Monache gear. But we had to support our town, and now we've really grown to love all the teams in this area. I know that Strathmore now is a part of the PUSD. I don't know if they always were, but they're part of the Porterville Unified School District now, so we can show love to Strathmore the same way as we do all the Porterville schools. And so I grew up here in town in Porterville, gone to schools here in town for most of my life anyway. I graduated from high school at Monache, and so I've always loved sports from that time. In high school I played some sports for a little while, and then always was a huge fan of our school sports there. We had some really awesome players that came out of Monache at that time. One of them is Victor Leyva, who just recently was on another podcast here in town. But I think our goal is to really spotlight the local talent here in this area, the athletes in this area, and that's kind of our love, is to really hype up these kids that are here and that sometimes get overlooked. You have like Bakersfield and Fresno. Obviously, those are big areas that have a lot of talented athletes there. They get a lot of love from the local stations in those areas. You have Visalia and Tulare that have pretty good schools that have had long records of winning teams and good programs there. And so we want to bring some love to this area. You have, like you said, even Exeter, they had a really great football program this year. And so kind of, show some love to all the people that are in between those big areas. So we kind of going back to where our friendship started. Both of our boys played for the Cougars, and that's where we first met, was with them playing for the Cougars. And we've always been best friends since then. Pretty much from that, we just hit it off, and we're like buddies since then. But our kids went to Porterville High School after that, and so we helped out with the team for high school and all the sports that they were playing. So the idea for this podcast, we kind of came up to this place where we were getting into the postseason last year with the football team, and we're kind of actually the last 2 years, right? I think the last 2 years. The
well,
postseason.
I think you helped them out the year before, but for me, I didn't come on until our boys were seniors. Which this past year in 2023, our boys had already graduated, so they graduated. So this was started in 2022. Is when we had this little seed planted in our brains through conversation, going to away games and just wanting to know, who they're playing, what they're playing for. Are there any stars on the other team? Are they being looked at for the next level? Stuff like that.
Yeah, and so I think because we're such big fans of UFC, right? Mm-hmm. We're big fight fans, and one of the most exciting parts of the fight is the build up to the fight.
Yeah.
And so having a backstory, and it's like there are these exciting games when you start getting into the playoffs. You have these exciting games, but when you go down there, you know what your team's all about, but you have no idea what the other team's all about.
Well, some people don't even know what their team's all about.
Admittedly,
I didn't know a whole lot of our players and stuff. I focused a lot on our boys and their friends that were on the team, but like you said, even the teams that we were playing,
even your own team, your own team, you don't know. And you know what? Actually, now that I think about it too, is that when you start getting into playoffs, that's when the grandma and grandpa starts coming out, uncles and aunts come out, and people that haven't followed the team all season. But it would be really interesting for them to watch a little 20-minute, 30-minute podcast and get caught up real quick before the Friday night game, before we hit the road and go play a team in Bakersfield that has a kid that's being looked at by a college or something like that. And those are kind of some of the stories that we wanted to tell. It'll
help drive the excitement, from the whole community.
And kind of going back to the UFC thing on Saturday night when you're watching the UFC fight and you already have the backstory on these two guys, the bad blood, or they got in a fight at the press conference or whatever it is that builds up that it makes the Saturday night fight that much more exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we kind of want to do the same thing for the Friday night football game or the Thursday night basketball game, whatever it is. And so we decided, hey, let's make a podcast because we didn't see anybody else doing it. We would end up being at a game somewhere on the sideline going, hey, who are we playing?
Start Googling,
looking things up and trying to find out what their record is. And so that's one of the things that we want to bring out and show people is like, hey, this is the team that we're playing. Hey, watch number 5. She's a star player. She's a point leader in the league. Whatever the stats are, we watched the Golden West versus the Porterville girls, and Riley Schoonover and Danae Benuelos were point leaders in the EYL. And when I was watching that game, I was watching a couple of the players on their team going, oh, I know those girls, I know the names, and so it made it that much more exciting, to see that, and so that was kind of what brought us this idea to do this podcast. Also another thing is that there are multiple sports out there that don't get the same exposure as, let's say, football. Football's an exciting sport to watch. You don't even have to be a sports fan to enjoy your time on Friday night at the stadium with the popcorn and pizza and all that stuff. You could just go out there and the fans are going wild in that whole bit. But there's, sports like, let's say, soccer. There's also there's golf in high school. There's tennis. There's water polo. There's
basketball, wrestling, volleyball. Volleyball doesn't competitive, and the girls in this area are really good,
and when we're at a point right now where there's a lot of good talent all across the board in Porterville, so when you have the big rivalry games, you have like a Porterville Monache game in any sport, any sport at all.
Exactly.
It's exciting to go watch, and so we want to, there are times in the past where I was like, hey, I didn't even know Porterville Monache was playing tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever the sport was, I had no idea that they were even playing. And had I known, instead of being at home, kind of kicking around dirty laundry, I would have been at the game watching the game. And so that's what we hope to do with this thing is to get people kind of back into the games, back into the stadiums and the stands, all of that stuff, and kind of get people back in the loop with sports
to build support, from the community for the players, and
and also like you were saying, we're talking about a few things before we started filming, and you're even saying like supporting all of the teams with merchandise or with things like that.
All the snack bars, when they have whatever sales, whatever kind of whatever they're trying to raise money for or raise funds or whatever, raise support for in general. Being that bridges the community and the players together.
Right. So I mean, I know that for sure. Both of us, we go to the games, and we're always buying a bag of popcorn, a drink, and a pizza or whatever it is. Just to support the team. And I know that I go out there hungry so that I can fill up specifically to support the teams. Local whatever the program is that's out there. So there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of there's weekend tournaments. We went to a weekend tournament for basketball. There's a lot of things. Wrestling tournaments on weekends. There's a lot of things that are going on that nobody knows. Actually, there's this week in particular, there's EYL champs in both Wenatchee and Porterville. A lot of kids that won EYL in wrestling. That who knows about that? Hardly anybody that gets to know these things. And there's a lot of kids that are being recruited by colleges, that are being looked at by colleges. A lot of kids that have left the area and gone to colleges and are doing well outside of high school that have continued on. Take for example, like some of the kids that our boys played basketball and football with. These kids, you get to know them at a young age, and then you grow with you see them in their whole process. And then you become almost like family with them. Even when my kids weren't playing basketball, I'd go out and watch basketball because the kid that my son played flag football with when he was in kindergarten was playing basketball. And so I'd go out there and watch him play, and so you become close like family with all of these kids and even the parents of the players. And then all of a sudden they go off to college and they do other things and they kind of like fall off the face of the earth. Yeah. So it'd be nice to bring in an athlete, somebody that's gone on to do other things. And
just came back to the community and have them in here and share their experiences, what they're going through, what they got going on, what they got going forward.
Hey, come check in with us whenever you're in town. Let us know how things are going after high school, what you got going on. And that's inspiring to other kids, other athletes in the area, and it also brings that kid back into the frame for people that have grown up seeing this kid go through his phases and growing through sports, and then they just lost touch with them. I know there's a lot of kids that I've coached and have played with my kids throughout the years that I feel sad like that I don't get to see them anymore. And so to bring some kids back in and do interviews with them and kind of check up on them, that's kind of some of the things that we want to do with this podcast. We also kind of plan on maybe bringing in some coaches to do interviews. I think coaches even and players,
athletic directors, whatever, anybody who has a hand, in providing, a place for these kids to play, is I think is fair game, for the podcast.
And it's just really about raising awareness, for the teams, the players, the really cool stories that we have going on here in town. One that you and I spoke about that I'm gonna knock on wood to get this guy in here. Fingers crossed is Jeremy Blackwell, Coach Blackwell. They have an amazing program over there, the football program, and he's somebody that I really want to touch bases with. He has a story of something that he persevered through that maybe we'll get him in here to talk about. I can't tell his story for him, but maybe we can, come and bring some of those things to the community. There are also some coaches that have retired in the last few years that I'd like to, hey, let's have a conversation with this guy that's retired and bring him in and say, hey, how's it going, Coach? What are you up to these days? And like I said, kind of keeping the community connected, because you build a relationship with these people. You become almost like family with these people, whether it's a player or a coach, and then they're gone, and it's like, man, can you come to Thanksgiving dinner with me? So it's just like you want to stay connected, and you grow to love these people in town. So I think that we have a lot of great ideas for this. When right now, as we're filming, we're getting close to playoffs for basketball, and so kind of starting to talk about some of the matchups, some of the teams, bring in some coaches in, some players. I think it'll be exciting for players to come in and do an interview. And I think if it was, if everything worked out great, maybe somebody spots a player on our podcast and they end up, looking into their highlight reels, and this player ends up getting recruited somewhere.
That would be awesome.
That'd be amazing. Something that we could help contribute to these kids and their futures. I have a lot of deep love for this community, and that's why I really love going out and doing a lot of events, going out and supporting in any way that I can. So I know that we both have that same love, and we're going to continue to build and grow this thing. I've been doing some little posters and things on Instagram, on Facebook, live feeds. So we want to keep everybody connected, kind of get people in the loop with all of the things that are going on. You have some athletes that are hitting milestones along the way that we'd like to highlight, rivalry games and different things that are going on in the community. So we're going to do that. But we also have some fun stuff we're going to do.
We do.
Which is the snack bar report, right?
Yeah. So rate the snack bar, I think. We haven't just came up with an official title for it, but one thing that we do love when we go to these events is when we said it earlier, is to support a snack bar. But admittedly, some snack bars are
lackluster.
Or not all snack bars are created equal.
They're not all created equal.
So we want to kind of spotlight that a little bit and give praise to the ones that are, and then give a little criticism to the ones who aren't. We're firm, but we're fair, and that's going to be an exciting segment for sure.
I think that if my dream came true, our dream came true with this thing, there would eventually be more fans in the stands. There would be more people buying, snack bar stuff. And I know that it's tough sometimes when you have a snack bar and it's all, you have it all fully furnished and nobody shows up.
Oh yeah.
And and so it's like you're buying stuff and then it gets wasted. And so if we can get more people out there, more people, we give a snack bar rating, and then people go like, hey, let's not eat dinner tonight, let's go to such and such snack bar. They always have hot dogs and Cheetos and with cheese and nachos and all that good stuff. And then it gets people to spend their money out there. They go out, support the fans. I know that, from being an athlete, that when you're out on the field or in a gym or whatever it is, when you have a whole, cheering section, you got fans in the crowd that are just going wild, it gives you energy when you're on the court, when you're on a wrestling mat, whatever it is. And so that's what we plan to do, is try to get these all these places filled up with fans, rooting on our local talent.
Yeah, for sure.
All of that good stuff.
Yeah, one of the other things too is we've talked about who we're going to bring on, and obviously the podcast is on highlighting athletes and coaches, but we will have some special guests too, some people who may not necessarily be involved directly with sports, but some people who have a good some people who will have good takes on the local talent too.
Yeah, that's the thing. And admittedly, I would consider myself, an inch deep and half a mile wide on sports. I don't have a super vast understanding of sports, not as much as you, not even half as much as you. But I think that's kind of the dynamic between the two of us. Is as you kind of put it, I'm going to be the color commentator. You'll be more the analyst kind of guy. You're really knowledgeable with sports, and like you said, we'll bring on some special guests that can add some input. Kind of expand the conversation around some different viewpoints of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so we'll definitely have some special guests coming in. We'll have some coaches coming in, athletes, some returning athletes from colleges or whatever it is, people that are moved on down the road. And so I'm excited, man. I'm really excited.
Too.
And this is going to be a great thing for the community. I think that's one thing. This is a win-win thing. It's it scratches our itch for more information and knowledge that we want to see in the sports, and it also helps shine a spotlight on the local talent and get more information out there to the community that can hopefully, like I said, have a snowball effect and get more people out supporting our local sports.
For sure.
So anyway, with all that being said, I want you guys to keep tuning in to our podcast. We have a lot of things coming up. We have a lot of special guests and people that are lined up for interviews, and people that are excited to come in and check things out. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'd like to thank my co-host Andrew for being here tonight.
You. Appreciate it.
We look forward to bringing you quality content from Porterville and the surrounding areas, the Orange Belt, and really just giving a big spotlight to all the local talent and teams in this area. On the Grind Sportscast, we're out for tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.